There is a pattern that appears in many relationships, yet almost no one notices it while it's happening. The more dependable a person is, the less carefully they're treated. They respond quickly, they forgive easily, they remain consistent, and slowly their effort becomes invisible. Not because others consciously decide to disrespect them, but because the mind adapts to stability. This is the loyalty trap, and if you've ever felt like your kindness makes you invisible, this video will explain exactly why that happens and what the psychology reveals about human nature that most people never learn. The loyalty trap does not begin with mistreatment, it begins with appreciation. At first, people notice reliability, they thank it, they respect it. But the human brain is designed to conserve attention. What becomes predictable stops requiring mental energy, and attention is the foundation of perceived value. This is not cruelty, it's neurological efficiency. Your brain has limited processing capacity. It cannot give equal attention to everything simultaneously. So it developed a system. Allocate attention to what changes, what threatens, what surprises. Consistency becomes background, stability becomes assumption. When something feels guaranteed, it stops feeling scarce. When it stops feeling scarce, it stops feeling important. This is where loyalty quietly changes meaning. Instead of being seen as active commitment, it becomes interpreted as permanent feature. And permanence fundamentally changes behavior. Think about the things you consciously maintain: your car, your phone, your health. Why do you maintain them? Because they could fail, because loss is possible. Human behavior protects what might disappear, not what always remains. We lock our doors because things can be taken. We back up files because data can vanish. We maintain effort when loss feels possible. But when loss feels impossible, effort fades without conscious intention. In relationships, certainty reduces caution. The loyal person signals safety. Safety lowers alertness. Lower alertness reduces consideration. No one announces this shift. It happens gradually, invisibly, over hundreds of small interactions. At first, small favors are requested carefully, with appreciation, with awareness that you're doing something beyond obligation. Then the same requests arrive more comfortably. The thank yous become shorter, the acknowledgement less frequent. Then, automatically, the behavior becomes routine. It's not even framed as asking anymore. It's just assumed you'll handle it. Eventually, without asking at all, your involvement is simply expected as default. The transition feels natural because it never arrives in a single dramatic moment. Every small adjustment feels reasonable on its own. And the loyal person accepts each step because loyalty includes patience. But patience teaches expectation. Expectation rewrites the relationship, not through conflict, but through repetition. People adapt to what works. If reliability solves problems, reliance increases. If understanding prevents tension, accountability decreases. The relationship does not become hostile, it becomes asymmetrical. One side maintains stability, the other side maintains comfort, and comfort rarely questions its source. This is the psychological mechanism at work: habituation, the process by which repeated exposure to a stimulus decreases response to it. You notice the first time someone helps you move furniture. You barely notice the 20th time. You appreciate the first meal someone cooks for you. By the 100th, it's just Tuesday. The brain literally stops generating the same emotional response to identical patterns. It's not ingratitude, it's neural adaptation. This is why loyal people often feel profoundly confused when the imbalance finally becomes visible. They remember every act of effort, every sacrifice, every time they showed up. The other person remembers normal, their baseline, the way things are. Both perceptions feel entirely correct because both are describing different psychological realities.
The trap forms because loyalty is interpreted fundamentally differently by the giver and the receiver. To the giver, loyalty means active care, a continuous choice, ongoing effort. To the receiver, loyalty becomes environment, context, the way things are structured. And environments are not consciously appreciated, they're simply lived inside. You don't thank the floor for being solid. You don't appreciate the air for being breathable. You don't praise stability for existing. You live within it. You build upon it. You assume it. The mind prioritizes change, not consistency. This is called the novelty bias in psychology. We notice a sudden cold day, but not constant temperature. We notice noise, but not silence. We notice interruption, but not presence. Reliable people become silence in the psychological sense, essential but not noticed. Research in behavioral psychology shows that intermittent reinforcement, unpredictable rewards, create stronger behavioral patterns than consistent reinforcement. The person who is sometimes available, sometimes distant, keeps attention active. Their behavior cannot be predicted, so the brain must keep monitoring. The person who is always available becomes predictable. The brain stops monitoring. Attention moves elsewhere. This creates the cruelest irony of the loyalty trap. The more reliable you are, the less your reliability is consciously valued. Not because people are ungrateful, but because brains are efficient. Highly empathetic individuals fall into this pattern easier and fall deeper. They interpret behavior generously. They assume stress, not disregard, circumstance, not pattern. When someone takes them for granted, they think they're going through something. They're overwhelmed. They don't mean it. So they compensate. They give more attention to restore balance. But additional giving communicates capacity, not sacrifice. The mind of the other person assumes if it continues, it must be sustainable. If they're still doing it, it must not be costing them much. Effort becomes identity. The person is no longer helping, they are simply the helpful one. Roles replace choices, and roles rarely receive gratitude because they are expected to exist. You don't thank a teacher for teaching. You don't thank a doctor for diagnosing. You don't thank the loyal person for being loyal. It's just who they are. This roleification is particularly insidious because it feels like respect, like being valued for your character. But it's actually the opposite. It's being categorized. Your behavior has been converted from choice into trait, from action into expectation. And expectations create entitlement. Not malicious entitlement, structural entitlement. The kind where someone genuinely feels confused and hurt when you're not available, because availability was integrated into how they structured their life. This leads to the most psychologically revealing moment in the loyalty trap, the first refusal, the first time the loyal person sets a boundary. When the loyal person finally says no, the reaction often feels disproportionate. Not anger necessarily, but confusion, hurt, a sense of betrayal. You've never had a problem with this before. I thought I could count on you. You've changed. These statements are not manipulative lies. They are genuine expressions of disrupted expectation. The boundary feels unreasonable, not because it is unreasonable, but because the relationship was unconsciously structured around its absence. The entire dynamic was built on availability. Removing it feels like removal of support, not restoration of balance. This is why loyal individuals are often labeled as changed or different or not themselves when they finally establish limits. From their perspective, they corrected an imbalance. They reclaimed their autonomy. They set a healthy boundary. From the other perspective, the environment suddenly and inexplicably altered. The ground shifted. The reliable constant became unreliable. Neither person believes they are being unfair. They are responding to genuinely different psychological realities. The loyal person sees years of overgiving finally being addressed. The other person sees sudden withdrawal of established support. both are describing the same event through incompatible frameworks. This is the loyalty trap at its most painful, because there's no villain, there's just incompatible perception. The loyalty trap is powered by asymmetrical investment perception. The person investing more feels commitment increasing over time. Every act of loyalty deepens their sense of connection. The person investing less feels stability increasing over time. Every act of reliability from the other person makes them feel more secure. But here's where the psychological disconnect creates the trap. Stability reduces urgency. Urgency drives effort. So effort naturally moves toward the person who fears loss more. Over time, the relationship organizes itself around this difference, not through conscious manipulation, through unconscious adaptation. Human behavior always moves toward the path